Hey guys, welcome back to Heart of the Hero, Tools for Successful Minds. We're gonna get into some fun stuff today. I'm really glad for any repeat visitors that are coming back to see us. We really appreciate it. Greg, what are we getting into today?
Oh man, it's fun today. We're getting into the success journey, the ride, the path, right? Your growth path, wherever it is that you're going, wherever it is that you're moving in life. You got goals, you got stuff that you want, and
Goals.
really goals, right? You got goals, right? And the thing that I think the thing that some people miss and it kind of slides through the cracks sometimes is seeing what's behind you, right? Like you look at what's behind you and what you've actually done and kind of maybe reminisce on it or try and reveal some new ways you could look at stuff, but not get caught in it. Just kind of use it as a way to orient yourself. So today we're kind of going to talk about how a person could start to use the little wins, right? Their little victories, and notice where they're going to orient themselves towards a little bit more success.
Well, and I think it's important to focus on that because it can get pretty hard along the way. It can the grind that you're on, the things that you do, like the stuff that you set yourself up to do. You guys have heard us talk about daily processes and times, and we'll probably end up doing a whole episode on that. But you have these things that you're required of you every day. Whether it be jobs in school, family, and you have a lot of stuff that you have to take care of, and so you can kind of be in this constant buzzing state of getting things done and needing. Oh, I got to be doing this, and I got to be thinking about this, and I got to be doing this, and don't forget to do this, and don't forget to do this, and you can do all those things really well, but if you never actually allow yourself to kind of I don't know, just stop and give yourself a hand and be like, hey, good job.
Celebrate. No, he's right. Like he's right. You have to actually kind of notice, like, hey, I'm doing some cool stuff here, and it kind of gives you fuel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely a fuel. It's a gas station. It's just like literally like you're on a long back road, you're driving, you're almost on E, and you're just like, oh, and you see this gas station. That's that gas station. That's that little win. That's gonna like refill. Let's go. Because that encouragement that you get, that excitement and confidence you get, kind of just keeps you moving forward. And often we feel like we're like kind of waiting on this approval or this response from other people. You kind of are working hard often to like get other people to notice you or maybe recognize you or see you as how you want to be seen, and you're kind of waiting for that day. And if you wait on that, you might be waiting a while, because sometimes people even feel uncomfortable giving compliments. I don't know why. It just makes people feel uncomfortable. Like actually, you're like, oh man, you're really growing, or oh man, you're doing a really good job, or wow, that was a really good job. People are way too negative. They're not positive enough. Even like in management, I've told my old managers this. I'm just like, look, this place, you can do everything right 5 days in a row, and if you mess one thing up, that's all we talk about for the next week. And it's like it's not like, so if you're constantly only focusing on the things that you're needing to get done and the things that maybe you're slipping up on, and never focus on all the stuff that you achieve every single day, it's just you're gonna run yourself dry.
No, and you're going to feel like garbage, because the only things you're going to see is, I mean, your brain, and we talk about this a little bit, but your mind will focus on what it is that you think is important, right? It's what it is that you think is important. So if maybe you're the kind of person who is, you feel negative often, and you self-criticize, and you look at, well, I did these 3 things, but I didn't do these other 2 things. Like, no, don't obsess about the 2 things you didn't do. Look at the 3 things that you did, see what they actually brought you. What's their utility? What is that doing for you? How does that affect your life? Does that make you more money? Does that push you closer to your goal? Rather than focusing on, well, I should have done more, I should have done better, I should have worked harder, right? Because it will really sap your energy, right? It will drain the way that you feel about the progress that you're making, because all that you'll see is the negative, right? All you'll see is the parts of your drive, the parts of your path that aren't yet finished, right? And that can be this nagging process that can really slow a lot of people down in the way that they're developing.
Well, and not only that, but you're kind of people often don't realize that, like, sometimes the grind is, that's life, like for some periods of your life, if we only get this one life, there are times in it to have the things that we want, that you have to give sections of your life away. You have to give years, whether it be, say it's college, just go simple as that. Like, you're just giving away like 4 or 5 years of your life to mainly and primarily doing this, going to school, getting things done in the way that, and getting things done that you want. But so if you're going to be in this place for 5 years, you need to find a way to live your life and actually enjoy your life and actually enjoy the work in some way, because obviously that sounds crazy, enjoy the work, because they wouldn't call it work if it was necessarily fun. There's a very small percentage of people in the world that get to work and have fun doing it, and because a lot of times it's tedious. A lot of times it's not exactly what we want to do, but it's something that we need to do to get what we want. And so, like, if you're just constantly focusing on the negative for all this time of your life, like this whole era, you're just going to be a depressive, anxious, annoying to be around person, because you'll just be constantly negative. Like, you'll have this, like, oh man, I got to go to school and I got to go to homework and constantly on this. And, somebody asks you how you're doing and your answer's always just like, I mean, I'm busy. I don't ever have time to do anything. I don't go out. I don't do anything. Blah, blah, blah. All I do is work. Well, okay, you got to find little ways to, like we said, refuel yourself. And one of those ways is by recognizing the victories that you have when you have them, because when the little wins that you have, it's like you don't see them, but they happen every time of day. Every time you take the trash out, that's a win. And that seems, oh, well, duh, it's a human thing. Everybody's got to take, yeah, but you're being diligent every day and doing it. So if you've done a great job at never letting your trash build up and get overflow, or not forgetting to take the trash can to the road and letting it go overflow, and you've just been doing great on it, just stop and say, hey, good job. That's something you don't ever have to worry about, because maybe you did worry about it in the past or something like that. Like, you have to like look at the things in your life, even the simple things like washing dishes, how you handle your kids, if you get your kids to school on time, every day, if you're at work at time, you get them to work at time, these little things that we kind of take for granted that are like, not, you've never been late to work. That's an accomplishment, like you got a perfect attendance. That's great. It's like, but other people might be like, oh, well, you got to show up to work. It's like, no, but you celebrate that, because also what that does is build a good habit in your head, of, it's like a pattern. Like, if we always talk about patterns. Well, if you have a pattern in your brain to just constantly overlook these things, implement a pattern that makes you feel good. Why not? I mean, do you not want to feel good? Do you not want to feel kind of accomplished and confident and full of energy and given the right kind of, fuel you need? Do you not need fuel? Because there's times in my life where I was like always up for some type of inspiration, always up for somebody help me out, get me moving. And I was looking external, like I'm looking for it. And then I realized you can get it from within yourself if you choose to see the things that you actually are doing right, not only focusing on the things you're doing wrong, like you said.
Right. No, and I want to latch onto that, like a train car, because there's this idea of outcome independence and outcome dependence. And you're talking about how people can get their validation from external sources, right? Meaning, like, you're doing something and you get down and you're like, hey guys, look what I did. Or, hey Facebook, look what I did. Or, hey, and it's like, that works, right? But it's so unsure. Like, they might care, they might not, right? You might get the compliment, you might not. And it's easier. You could choose, if you wanted to, you could choose to look at your own successes. You could look at your own successes and say, you know what, I did a good job here. This is what I needed to do. This is what I wanted to do, right? And so I think one of the huge things is starting to notice, and this is what we're going to cover really in this video in a good bit of detail, how to stop being so outcome dependent. And I'll define that so that you can get that to click in your mind in an easier way. It's like, outcome dependence is this idea that the things that you're doing, right? Let's say that you have 10 things to do on this to-do list, right? And you want to get them done. Like, you want to go, mow the lawn, you want to go, write a report, or all these, you've got 10 things, right? And the outcome dependent mindset would only focus on this binary, whether or not you finished all 10 of those things. That's it. It's like, did I do all 10? If you didn't, you failed, right? If you didn't, you're a failure. If you didn't, you suck at life, and like everything that you're doing is horrible, and you're going to go into this spiral of hating yourself, and like, you need to do this and grind harder, right? Because you're outcome dependent, meaning you're not focusing on what successes have accrued, right? Like, you're not looking back and saying, you know what, I did 6 of these today. I need to go, take a shower, or I need to go eat some food, or, walk my dog or whatever. And that kind of got in the way, but I'm going to do better tomorrow. So you're not as tied to the outcomes. You're more tied to the process. And you hear this a lot in like grind circles and, success circles, whatever, like personal development stuff. They talk about trusting the process. Well, the process isn't anything complicated. It's not anything complicated. It's just the things that you're doing consistently to get what you want. That's it, to get where you want to go, to make the things manifest in your own life that it is that you desire. And it could be as simple as, telling your spouse that you're into them. Like, I haven't told you this a lot lately and blah, 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 whatever. Right. That seems small, but it's a part of the process. Right. So if you can detach yourself from this dependence on what the outcome will be, and you focus on more of the process of doing it, that's kind of what we want to talk about today to push you in that direction.
Well, and I think too, at the beginning, that's a big thing. Like towards the beginner steps, the still teaching yourself to grind steps are kind of a difficult. It's a difficult time for you to, because you want to see the outcomes. Initially all you see is the outcome. Like that's what got you started. Like what I wanted. I wanted to, whether you want, like whatever degree you chose or whatever business you chose to start or whatever career you even chose in general, whether you're following your passions, following your talents, or playing it safe. It doesn't matter. There's an outcome that you see that you're trying to get to, and so you see that. And when you first start, it's kind of like everything just. All you're seeing is that, and then they come and tell you, oh, you need these classes, or you need this certification, you need this amount of experience, you need this many recommendations, or this good of it, whatever it is. They as in the people in charge of whatever is controlling your future in that area say, here's what you have to have, or here's what you need. That's when you kind of look at this stuff and you're like, well, but that's not this, and that's not the outcome. Like, but it's like that's the outcome. And I have to do all these things, and so you're constantly like getting one done. Okay, am I there? Nope. Okay, still have to do these things. No. Okay, I'm not there. And you're just constantly going through and thinking, okay, I'm not there. I'm not there. I'm not there. And instead of thinking, 3 left, 2 left,
right,
1 left, and like and being like happy with each one of those, knowing that the whole outcome is that the outcome is no longer when you're given a set of tasks and you're given a set of requirements, like classes, books to read, years of experience. You're basically given like you're given a new outcome, because the outcome is getting these things done. It's not becoming a entrepreneur anymore. It's not becoming, getting a degree anymore. It's not following your passions anymore. It's achieving each one of the required fields for you. That's now the outcome. There's nothing after that, because that'll happen on its own. If you know what you got to get done, you don't need to focus on all that anymore at all. You need to focus on what's in front of you. And now the outcome that you're trying to achieve should be to finish everything that's necessary. You shouldn't be focusing on that. So if you change the way you think, at least one of the ways I try to change when I was starting was changing your way you think about what you do on a daily basis. And look at it and actually be like, okay, my outcome today, have short-term outcomes, have daily outcomes that you want to see, like how much you want to get done, setting goals for yourself each day, like how much you actually want to do. Because like if you can set, if you, for instance, this is kind of a cheat. Like it's essentially saying we all have outcome goals. So and we have all these outcome oriented work processes that we've set up. Instead of focusing on that, now make the actual finishing of the process the outcome that you're looking for. Like, don't worry about anything else. Actually start setting yourself up with goals and benchmarks within your own daily process, within your own weeks, that aren't necessarily the big picture, but are actually goals that you have set for yourself, that you can actually achieve. Because like if you wanted to read an entire book in 2 weeks, like that's not an outcome oriented goal. I mean, it is, but the real outcome is what? Why are you reading that book? If you're reading it for classes, and you want to finish this book in 2 weeks, well, okay, the real outcome you're looking for is whatever that degree is going to provide you. But if you are, if the outcome is, but you've set this goal of I'm going to do this in 2 weeks, you can achieve that and be like, boom, I did what I wanted. I achieved the outcome that I was looking for. 2 weeks, I did it, and you can actually celebrate those. And so, giving yourself some goals is a good way to reorient the idea of outcome-oriented, goals. I feel like I'm using that word so many times.
No, one of the things that really got me into process thinking, and I don't know if I'm echoing in your thinking. It sounds like I am. One of the things that really got me into sort of thinking more in process, this was way back, was when I sort of taught myself to speed read. And one of the things that is talked about in a lot of high volume reader communities, like, business or school or whatever, if you're trying to really dig in for information, it's this idea that you don't actually have to read a whole book to have read a whole book. And the thinking here is, if you were to choose any book and say it's a technical book or a how-to book or whatever, right? And you went through and you read all of it, well, maybe 30%, maybe 60%, maybe 90% of it is just going to be fluff. Not fluff as in it's useless, but as in it's filling in the blanks for you to understand what's being said. Whereas if you just look for the keywords, if you just look for the things that you actually need, let's say that you are trying to learn how to bake, right? And this is a basic example, but let's say you're trying to learn how to bake or a pie, a cake, or whatever, and you're reading a manual, or you're reading a recipe book or whatever, and you're reading through this thing, and it's like you could be the person who goes through and reads all 400 recipes because you want to know how it works and you want to make sure it's right and all this stuff, right? But it's like that the only reason you would do that is if your outcome, if the decision that you've made, your goal is to know all of these recipes or to have this much experience in your head, which isn't really useful. A better and more useful way to think about, maybe going through information or the process and all that stuff is to set goals that are achievable in the short term. So in that example, right, maybe you say, okay, so I'm going to take one recipe. I'm going to take one recipe and I'm going to go through and I'm going to write on the paper the 5 points that I need to do to get that done. And I'm going to just go and I'm going to go do point number 1. And I'm not going to worry about the other 4. I'm just going to do the first one, right? Get the pan, get the whatever. And you put it down, right? And you're ready. And then you go to point 2, right? This is the mindset we're talking about because it gives you this idea, it gives you this ability to really know when you're making progress. Because one of the hardest things, and it feels frustrating when you're not making success in the way that you want because your goals are too large. Not that you shouldn't have big goals. You should have big goals. But the thing is, if you break them down, you can actually achieve them a lot faster, right? So, it could be making your bed. You say, okay, well, first thing I need to do to make my bed is go in my room, right? And then take off my cover or put it back on or whatever. It's smaller steps, right? And you can start to do those. And then that gives you the ability to sort of say, okay, like, man, I've actually done 4 things right now, rather than just, is my bed made or is my bed not made? Man, I'm a failure. So it really lets you to actually see what's happening. It gives you this fuel.
Yeah. And I think people also misunderstand sometimes how long change actually takes to manifest in their lives, where it's like, people assume that, they've been living a certain way for however old you are, 20, 30, 25. It doesn't matter. You've been living this way for a long time. And you start making changes. You start implementing new ideas, new processes, new things into your life. And which is good. They're all great, or hopefully they're all good. And, they're all meant to bring you forward and push you up in the world and in your own life. But you do them for 3 weeks or a month or even 6 months. And you think that you should kind of be used to this already, or, you should already be, you shouldn't be struggling with certain things and it shouldn't be hard anymore because I've been doing this for so long. I'm telling you guys, everything that I've learned about entrepreneurship, business in general, or being an adult is that you never stop working. Like now there's ways to set up your business if you want to start your own, like if you're looking to start your own business and some other, and maybe there's some areas of business that you can get involved in that allow you to not have to work, but you're going to have to work a crap load at the beginning to even get there. So there's always work involved. There's always things that have to be done. And I think often we expect kind of, oh, if I've been doing this for 6 weeks, why am I not, already an expert at this? Why am I still struggling with this? Why haven't I seen more progress? Well, because you've been doing the opposite for 20 something years, like 30 years. Why do you expect to be different after 3 weeks? Why do you expect to be different after a month? And you feel like maybe I don't need that. And this is silly. I don't need to set small term goals because I know what I want. I'm going to push through anyway. And this doesn't really matter because I'm going to I'm going to make myself do it. Well, yeah, that's fine. But winners do what losers won't. And winners do everything they can. Winners do everything that's available that can help and add to their process. And that includes making sure that you're emotionally, mentally healthy. Making sure that no matter what you're doing, any expert, any guru will tell you, you need to be in a good place to be giving your best. What
would you say? Because that really stuck out to me, and I think it might stick out to some listeners. What would you say is the difference between a winning and a losing mindset when it comes to your own self, right? Because you said, you need to do your own mental upkeep and all that kind of stuff. Like, what's the difference between a winning mindset and a losing mindset in this area with, like, goal setting and, really looking at the little wins? What are the differences between those two people?
The difference between those two people. Well, it's a matter of one area would be the amount that they give themselves to tackle. Also, it's like people will look at what is necessary, right? A person who has a negative kind of a losing mindset, right? And people can do this way. I'm not saying it's impossible, but people have this losing mindset where they make goals and or daily processes and set up their lives to do certain things, and they're only the bare minimum that they have to do. Like, it's actually what's required on paper for them to do what they want to do. But what they don't, what that does is leaves so many helpful mental exercises. Like a common one is meditation. I don't like to just throw that around like it's something crazy, as much as calming the mind. Like positive affirmations, the laws of attractions, manifesting reality. These things are real ideas, and that help, or that have very helpful practice, mental and emotional practices in them that can make sure that you are doing your best at all times, that can make sure that you're in your best place for the hard-working times. Because we were saying everything takes work. You're always working. If you're not going into a business or some type of system, job that's going to allow you to not work, then you're going to work for the majority of your life. And so dealing with the mental and emotional turmoil that we've talked about in previous videos that comes with it means giving yourself practices that aren't necessarily outcome oriented, other than just no, they're outcome oriented. I'll take that back. They're outcome oriented. The outcome is to make you feel better. The outcome is to handle those emotions, take a break for a minute, and actually just let yourself rest, because you've done great. Go do something that isn't anything. Just go call a friend. Go do the things that you like to do for 30 minutes, an hour. Who cares? Because those type of things, just like let yourself be rewarded. Let yourself feel good about the things that you've done. And when you have a victory, let yourself reward yourself. Like that's a really small one, but like these dealing with negative thoughts, that's and those videos out there that talk about negativity and keeping yourself in good state, like Tony Robbins and such, like those are set up, and he talks about these things because they're true. If you don't believe me about this, look, go watch some Tony Robbins videos. That's all I'm saying. On just YouTube Tony Robbins state change, and you'll be like, oh yeah, this is really important. I'm not gonna spend this entire time talking about it, but the state that you're in is very important, and there are ways to get yourself emotionally, mentally, and physically in a peak state to actually give the best, the most quality, the most content that you can give, and value you can give to people in the world and the business and niches that you're in, whichever way you're going. And so state is a very important thing, and these are practices. This isn't necessarily make or break. You're not necessarily going to be prevented from being a lawyer because you don't know how to control your state. Maybe you were able to just grind through it miserably for 10 years. Like, you don't have to be miserable. That's what they're saying, is that, like, push yourself to add stuff that are add processes in your life that are outcome oriented, based around making you deal with the mental kind of struggle, the stress and anxiety that can come, or the emotional struggle that can come, from, just being worn down from working so hard. What they're saying is, look, yeah, you can do A, B, and C, but you could also do A1, B2, and C3 in addition, and that would help out. And that was a terrible metaphor, but essentially you could do these 3 steps and you'll probably get this. But you might be miserable the whole time. You're going to have hard times in here. You're going to have to struggle for long periods of time. You have to grind, do homework, not see friends, sacrifice time, your free time. Those type of things are going to be hard. They're going to cause stress, physical reactions, emotional reactions, backlash in your mind of just like, oh, I need a break. You'll get cabin fever and you'll have to get out of the house. There's a lot of stuff that can happen during that time that this is what people are saying, is that, look, there are other processes out there to help you in these things. They're not necessarily urgent, and you don't have to necessarily do them, but you can give more quality and better value if you actually are there in full body and mind. Like if you're actually there in a good, positive, excited, confident state, rather than a tired, worn out, stressed out, strung out, over it state. I mean, which one would you say you were more, which one would you say you produce better quality, in a confident, excited, energetic state, or a tired, depressed, anxious state?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, there's no question. Anybody would answer that. Anyone who's done anything productive or unproductive, because honestly, you're more creative. You're more creative, and you relax better when you're in a more confident, high energy state, because that's how the body works. It's like, oh, like I actually feel good right now. Everything else comes from that, right? Everything else flows from that. And it's funny, while you were saying this, I kind of got this impression. It's like you would tell people to run. I don't know if any of the listeners or anyone watching maybe has done like any marathon prep stuff, or maybe you've done some traveling, through the woods, anything like navigational wise. Well, or a road trip. It's almost like the success journey, right? The grind journey, the journey to get whatever it is that your goal is, right? It doesn't have to be big. It could be, but it could be anything, right? It's like whatever you want. The way to get there, it's a journey, it's a path, it's a way that you have to go. And some people have done it, some people haven't. Sometimes you got to kind of trailblaze, sometimes you don't. But it's like, to get to that space, right? People have this idea, and this is kind of one of the huge obstacles that I've noticed when it comes to actually reflecting on little wins themselves. It's what I like to call the go-go mindset, right? The go-go mindset. And what I mean is, you could imagine you're on a trip or a road trip, or you're traveling, or whatever it is, right? Like whatever it is that, floats your boat, that you like to do, that's kind of linear, right? Like could be a video game. You start at the start, you end at the finish. Well, in the middle, right? It seems like people have this idea, and maybe it's culture, or maybe it's TV, maybe it's, friends and family, or it could just be the people that you see who you think are successful, and this is what you think they're doing, that they always are nose to the grindstone all the time. Like that they never are stepping back and looking at their work. They're never breathing in and saying, you know what, that was a good job. Like, how could I make changes here? It's almost like people think, right? They think that you're going to drive 500 miles without ever stopping to get gas. Like you're going to be able to do that. Like, oh yeah, I don't need to change my tires. I don't need to check my oil. I can just drive straight through. It's going to work. Like it's going to work. Right. So there's this, it's like this frenetic energy. It's like you have to always be doing something, right? And those kinds of people who think they're going to be successful. They think, and you could be one of these people right now, right? So don't get offended if this hits somewhere, right? If you are the kind of person who's always trying to look for the next thing. Let's say you just finished a project, you just finished a tag. You're like, okay, let's start the next one. Let's start the next one. Let's do the next one. Tomorrow I'm getting up and I'm doing this. Well, how do you know? What if adding the process of reflecting on what you've done, right? Saying, what did I actually do here? Like, was this good? Was this bad? How do I feel about it? How does this play into the goals that I'm going to do? What if that process actually opened some doors for you that you didn't see? Like, what if doing that process actually gave you more efficiency? What if it gave you more ability, right? And I'm not saying it will or it won't. We can get into that in a minute. But ultimately, the thing to know is that there's this resistance, and it's because of the idea that you have to always be in this go, squeeze it, grind hard mindset to get anything done. And I don't know if you've maybe experienced that, but I've seen that quite a bit. I mean, I have had it myself, and it messes you up.
Well, and I think you can be in a go, get it mindset, grind everyday mindset, without being critical on yourself. I think it's like, right. because I understand that mindset. There's a sense of urgency. There's a sense of, I have to do this. Your happiness is kind of tied to this. Your view of yourself is kind of tied to this. And so until you achieve this goal, you're just out, out of the question, unhappy, or have to, you're constantly waiting for your life to begin, constantly waiting for some thing to happen in your life that's going to change everything for you. And so being on a daily grind isn't necessarily a bad thing. That, being on the go, get it isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you do need to monitor what kind of effect it is having on you. Because if
Mhm.
you are taking on too much, probably the work that you're doing and the process that you have is not very efficient, because you're string, you're spread too thin, and you're not giving enough of your attention and focus to the areas that you already had, and you're still trying to stretch yourself more. And you shouldn't do that if you're not able to handle it, especially if you're not able to handle it mentally and emotionally. And that's why all these other practices are born. That's why you hear these gurus and these experts talking about, handling negative thoughts and dealing with negative mindsets and limiting beliefs and state change and all this stuff you hear people talk about. Is because people need it. There's a market there. And the reason it's there is because other people deal with these problems. If you have that kind of critical self-destructive tendency of making yourself think that you always have to push and always have to go, and if you don't, then it's gonna be just the worst, and I'm not gonna make it, and I'll fail, and I'm not gonna fail, so I gotta do this, and I'm gonna do this every day, or else I'm not. I was there. I was there for a long time of just like, that was my motivator, that was my driver. My dissatisfaction with the situation that I lived in was the thing that actually pushed me to sit down in front of the computer and work. And I separated from that because I realized it was actually damaging me, and it was tying my own happiness and my own my own view of my self-worth to the amount that I was putting in every single day. And that's not really a healthy way to look at things. Now, I won't say that some of that isn't true, where my self-worth is actually kind of determined by how hard I work towards the things that I want. But that's
Right.
because I'm fully aware of what I want, the lifestyle that I want, what I want to do, which is help people through the means of helping them succeed in their lives and making this world a better place for everybody to live in, for my kids to live in, for the future. I literally think that far ahead. I'm trying to think of different ways that people could be living in 30 years, and you can live. I mean, I know you can think, we've talked about this, and you can think way further than I can. And it's this kind of seen foresight that we are trying to give you to see the areas in your life that need to be addressed. And being overly critical is one of them. Being overly driving yourself just into the dirt is one of them, because that's not healthy practice. You're not providing the best value you can provide
Right.
if you're in an exhausted negative place. And if you are in an exhausted negative place, then you haven't been very self-aware. You haven't been monitoring yourself very much, and you've kind of have a jaded, honestly, if you overload yourself, it's a reflection of the critical and urgency, the urgency of the thing that you want to you. It's now, yeah, that might mean, oh, well, that just means it means a lot to me. That's all that means. I just want this really bad. Well, that's fine. You can want things really bad, but if you're driving yourself into the dirt while doing it, then you're not. That's not worth it, because you might think, okay, once I get there, everything will be fine. No, if you drive yourself into the dirt for the next 5 years for something, at the end of it, you're gonna be muddy as hell. You're not gonna be clean, pristine. Everything's gonna be great. No, you're gonna have a bunch of like emotional, mental struggles and issues that you're gonna have to get through because you haven't dealt with any for the last 5 years. You've only been just packing on as much work in your mind, and you haven't had any time to focus on anything but your business and but your
No,
passions, but your career.
I think that's how you can destroy yourself. And I don't mean that in like some dramatic way. I mean, literally you will destroy yourself in your mind and your body, because you hear stories about this all the time. You hear stories about people who really are the push it, grind hard, stack everything on top and carry it. And you could do that, right? You can do that, and it works, and it's helpful, and it's useful. And you hit that, 5-year mark, that 6-year mark, that 7-year mark, and you finally get the thing that you've been just dying to get, right? You've been shoving your friends out of the way, pushing your family out of the way, avoiding doing stuff with people, like just grinding it day and night, right? Like just, oh, I don't need to spend money here because of this. All this stuff is just, your life has not been lived because you've been doing this so hard. And what happens is, you've got these internalized like feelings and patterns about whatever it is, because that's where you wanted to get. And then what happens when you get it? Like think about what would happen for a person who's been doing that for that long, who's ingrained this on such a deep level that they need to be this, not do this, but this is who they are. This is who they must be to be a successful person, right? Well, if that's what you believe, and then you stop because you got it, what happens to you? Like, what happens to your mind? What happens to your body? How do you feel about yourself when you look in the mirror and you've won? You don't feel good because you didn't focus on the process of doing it. You didn't focus on, I'm happy where I'm going every day. I'm living my life every day. You focused on, I need to get here, right? And it will mess you up. So you hear stories about that all the time.
Well, and I mean, that fits perfectly. That's exactly, I think that was a simpler way of saying what I was trying to get at. um, was that like, you know, you have to. It was Alan Watts, I think, that I heard say it. I'm not saying he originated it, but you know, he said life is not a stair. I think, like I said, life is not a staircase leading to an event, or your life is not a staircase. We all look at life as if we're climbing a staircase to our lives, like getting some outcome, getting some job, getting some career, getting some type of family, getting some type of lifestyle situation is actually going to like make my life what it was supposed to be all of a sudden. Like, and when people don't, what people fail to realize often, I don't know if you guys, anybody listening is one of them, and it's fine if you are, but you need to realize that you need to learn to enjoy each step up that staircase to that goal, because you will find out one day that that is life. Life is the staircase. Life is the journey. Life is not a song. Like, look, if life is a song, okay, and you have to hear the individual notes and intricacies of each part the entire way from start to finish to be able to fully enjoy the song. You know, hearing each note for its beauty, you know, those type of that, you know, you know, life is not like a song isn't, I think Alan Watts said this again, is that, you know, you know, if we life is not a song being played all at one time. You know, it's not a bunch of chords just being strummed, played, and play the very end because that's what matters. No, you want to hear the whole thing. You need to learn to enjoy the life in front of you, even if you've chosen to make that life working every day. Even if you've chosen to make that life sacrificing time with your friends, sacrificing times doing things that you want to do, to be using to spend it doing things that are going to push you towards what you want, right? If you've made choices to put yourself in that situation, just understand that you're in that situation to get the things that you want. You're in that situation, so you need to be in it and accept it and believe that it's actually getting you somewhere that you want to go, and enjoy it and learn ways to enjoy it. And that one of the ways to help do that, and one of the ways to help train your mind to think positively and get yourself thinking about the good things each time you achieve something. The reason for this is because if you train yourself but to reward yourself for the little wins, you actually give yourself a good pat on the back, smile, and, you know, really just like, man, feel that one, like, good job, man, you did a really good job today, like, way to get that. I know it wasn't really that much, but you sat down, you didn't want to do it, and you did it. That's great. You know,
Right.
we're going to feel happy about that. And so when you do that, it builds a good process, a good practice. It trains your mind to think about things like that, like to not just think about the things that need to be done or the critical urgency of the nature, but also think about like, hey, you're doing a good job. You know, you're making decisions. You're not there yet, but you are on the path. You are taking steps. Look at you. You're actually moving. You're getting there. So be happy about that. Learn to be happy in each moment, day in your life, because that's what life's about. It's, you know, why wait to the end of the staircase to be happy? Why be miserable all the way up? Be happy on each step.
Right. And no, that's key. I mean, that's a hard lesson to internalize, unless you've kind of been through it a little bit or you have an experience to compare with that. But it's almost like the journey to get there, right? The movement to move towards your goals. It's like you need to illuminate a certain amount of things, right? You need to open up a certain amount of doors in your own understanding of what you're doing and how you are and who you are and who you could be, right? Because once you sort of open up those pathways, right? You know, you learn a little bit about self-awareness. You know, you maybe think about what it is that you actually want. You decide, you know, the kinds of people that you want to be around. You know, what are your perspectives about life and yourself? You go through all these different areas, right? And you don't have to go too deep, but you illuminate them just enough that you know how you feel. Once you get that done, right? And this is a huge part of it. Once you get that sort of opened up, it's almost like the world opens up to you. It's almost like you can make any choice that you want. You can do anything that you want. You can have anything that you want, because from that point, it's like you're standing on a hill and everything is very clear. And a lot of times it's difficult to see beyond your own inabilities or perceived inabilities, because you don't know what else is out there, like what else is blocking you, who else is keeping you down, you know, the kinds of people that you should be, you know, moving around and moving towards, and the kind of goals you should have. And a lot of this stuff is the process, is moving towards this, right? It's a daily process, it's a weekly process, it's an hourly process, it's a minute by minute thing where you say, you know what, no, I want this. I don't need to feel this way right now. I need to do this thing. I need to go over here, right? And all of this is a part of that sort of movement. And I think some people can forget that a lot of times, because it's easy to get caught up in the goal itself rather than saying, no, I need to actually be monitoring this stuff in my own environment.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it's definitely important. It's not, I kind of, this made me think of a story. That made me think of a story because
Mm.
not even really a story. It's more of an analogy. It's a metaphor, but I'm going to change my screen here because I keep just getting distracted by myself. But I used to tell this story because when people were going through the process of cleaning up their own mind, kind of dealing with negative thoughts and negative emotions, or, they were
Mm.
depressed or they were anxious, and I would kind of coach them and try to help people through some of these things. And one of the metaphors I would use was a dirty floor metaphor, which was like, okay, if you imagine like some palace or a castle, right? Like it's big, towers and large ballroom floors, huge hallways, 100-foot ceilings, all this stuff, right? And then they bring you into this ballroom, and it's just this huge ballroom dance floor, right? And it's all these little squares, these little 1 by 1 square foot tiles, different colors, all
Mm.
throughout the whole thing. And he hands you a bucket, and he hands you a mop, and he says, "All right, get cleaning." And that room is your mind. That room is your mental, emotional space. The room is your life. You're cleaning things up. That's eventually what you're doing if you're pushing yourself. That's what you're doing if you're grinding. And so, often, and this really ties into the enjoying the little wins, is that, like, you start, if you look at it and instantly, and you look out at this room and you're just like, wow, that's a lot. Like I have to clean all of these. Like if I'm cleaning 1 square at a time, that's like a billion. Like wow. Okay, better get started. I'm pretty intimidated, but like, okay, I got to get started. So you put your eyes down. You put your eyes down on the square in front of you. You start cleaning. You start cleaning. You scrub, 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 scrub. You're mopping, mopping. Okay, I've got that one clean. You move to the next one. Bucket, water, scrub and clean and clean and clean and clean and go for a while. And you keep your eyes focused, and that's what we're doing in our lives. You keep your eyes focused and down on each task in front of us that we need to do. We're constantly, all right, we got to do this. Okay, we got to do this because we're cleaning each one of these squares, and we have this huge room to get cleaned up, and we have to focus over here because we have these are each individual squares. We got to make sure every one of them is clean, and so what you need to do in that process, and is occasionally when you look up, don't look at the room that you still have left to clean. Look at instead at what you've already cleaned. Look at
Mm.
instead what you've already done and how much you've already achieved. Like, wow, okay, I've cleaned that much already. Like, but that much time has gone by. I can get through the rest of that with no problem. Cool. Like, and then we need to think about that in the same way in our lives. Is that we need to, instead of looking out and being like, oh man, I still have this many years of school, or I have this many more things to do, and I have to do all these things. I still haven't done them. Just like instead look up, look back, and be like, look at all that crap that I've done now. Like that stuff was easy. I'm done with that. I don't ever have to do that stuff again. Like that's a really good job. And like, being energetic about it, something, reward yourself in some way, take a break, clap your hands, give yourself a smile, woohoo, go buy yourself an ice cream. I don't care. Just go reward yourself for the things that you've done. And constantly continue to do that, because if you do, it reorients the way your brain looks at how you get to success, rather than constantly being intimidated by the huge room that you have to clean in front of you. How about constantly be encouraged by how much progress you're making? And guess what? The longer you clean, the more encouraged you get by the progress that you're making,
Yep.
because the bigger
Yep.
the clean space becomes. So the actual amount of encouragement you get just starts to double and triple and quadruple, because you actually are achieving lots of things now. Like you actually are moving. There's momentum behind your actions. You're like, dang, I'm cleaned like half this room already. Like I'm almost there. Like that you get way more as you keep going. And you just got to make sure you orient your mind to look at the things you've done, not the things that you still need to do or that you failed at.
No, it's almost like it energizes you. I mean, it gives you this burst of like, oh my God, because you can start to see, like, people have this weird thing where they like to look at the stuff that's in front of them, right? Like they have to bulldoze through it, and it's going to be this like really hard task and like all the problems. But like if you just switch, right, and you just it's a decision, it's just a choice in the way you want to look at stuff, right? If you just choose, maybe today I'll try this out. Maybe I could do this. Maybe I could make this happen, and you flip it, right? You flip it, and you start to look at, okay, what have I done? Like, who am I? What have I gotten done? What have I accomplished? What obstacles have I overcome this week? What things have I done that are positive? How am I moving towards my goals? And man, I can think about all the people who aren't doing that. I can think about all the people who have trouble doing what I'm doing, right? And I'm pushing through it, right? And so it's like you get this like injection, like it's like adrenaline, like energy, because you just know. You can just know that the things that you actually have done validate you. Like they actually are proof. They're proof that you can continue to do stuff, because all you got to do is extrapolate from that. Well, okay, I've done, X, Y, Z things, and all these things have gone really well. what happens if I do this for another year? What happens if I do this for another 6 months or another couple days or another 10 years? Like what would I be? Who would I be? What would I have? Where would I be at? Right. And it's almost like you get this shot of just pure energy because you can see it, because you're not looking at all the obstacles. You're looking at all the positive stuff, right? I think people can miss that sometimes because they're not paying attention to it. So one of the number one keys that you can kind of look at and maybe take home and think about is to just start to look at those things. Start to actually pay attention. Like, where am I winning? Am I winning? Is there a way that I could look at what I'm doing as winning? Because it will give you drive. It will push you forward, right? And you mentioned momentum, and I think that's the best way to put it. It gives you momentum.
Yeah, I like those questions too that you just said. What were the three questions you just said? That two of them were, "Am I winning? Is there a way I can look at what I'm doing as winning?"
Yep.
Like, I think there was one other, I don't know, but those are good questions to ask. Like, am I winning? And is there any way I can look at what I'm doing as winning? Because, that's two questions you can take home. Ask yourself those questions, be honest to yourself, and answer those. And if, and that'll reveal a lot to yourself. Like, again, this is a lot of the self-awareness process. If you don't have a notebook or some journal that you're able to at least document some of your thoughts in your minds, it's hard to keep track of all this stuff. You guys need something that you can go to and open up and be like, right, this is where I'm at with this. Because you're trying to like pick apart your brain and pick apart specific areas of your mind and how you think and how you work. It's hard to keep. You can't consciously hold that in the front of your mind. It's impossible. You can't consciously hold all that you are in your mind at one time. It's impossible. And so but that's why we have pen and paper. So you can like write stuff down, write out feelings and thoughts about things that you don't necessarily have to hold in your mind anymore because it's right there. Like you can have a page dedicated to all these different types of thoughts and you've put out down the majority of your thoughts on it. You don't have to worry about losing that. You can always go back and see. You can always go back and add. You can always go back and see, well, I don't really need to think this way. And you can change. But a big thing would be starting a journal, taking, notes on yourself, and really like dedicate an entire notebook to just like writing down everything about yourself. I'm telling you, there's no more better. And this is a little off of, in the little wins, but this is more of a self-awareness thing. But dude, it's so important. Just get a notebook that you can fill with your entirety of that you can think, like everything that you can think about yourself, every emotion, every thought, every memory that you like. Just the more you can learn about yourself and have it and access in front of you, I'm telling you, the more superior of a being you will be. Because the people that fail and the people that don't make it are the people that do not know themselves and do not know, because if you don't know yourself, you don't know what you need to do to get yourself through things. You don't know how to get through things at all because you don't know even how you react. You don't have names for them. You don't have practices. You don't have countering practices to actually get yourself going and getting yourself moving because you don't know yourself. So even to enjoy the little wins, you got to have a little bit of self-awareness, and to really keep going and get the big boosts from encouragement of the big amount of that you've cleaned in your life already, and looking back and being encouraged, you got to know yourself even more, and you got to like see what the response is. Where are you getting the most dopamine from? Where are you getting the most like hormones and endorphins from? Like make sure you know that those are the things that make you feel good, and reward yourself with those things.
Yeah, so screw you, man, because I was totally gonna summarize this, but I mean, like, if you're maybe just tuning in or listening or whatever, like, that's it. I mean, there's no better tie up than that. Wrap it with a bow and Merry Christmas, because honestly, it's like, it's not a lot to do. I mean, it's not a lot. It's just a mind shift. And then you just start doing probably the same stuff you're already doing now. You just think about it a little different. And all these little, perks and benefits, and I'm doing this and this is going to happen, they just come. They just show up because you've just done that one thing, right? So, the questions are a good way to do it. The journaling, that's huge. I mean, that's huge because then you can actually see it. And, like you were talking about, Dan, with the, and if you're maybe resistant to the idea of putting your stuff on paper, like who you are on paper, so that you don't have to see it, I gotta tell you, you're not gonna have a lot of progress. And I say that with love, because if you're resistant to even seeing the inner workings of what you're thinking and feeling in your mind, and where you're going and how you feel about yourself and the things that you did that day, there's really no way that you're going to be able to align yourself with your goals. Because how can you align yourself with your goals if you don't know how you work? How can you go anywhere if you don't know how to drive your car, right? So it's just like, once you start to see that and see the little nuances, like, oh, wow, like, okay, I'll just make a change here and make a change here, and boom, like, I'm right there, right? So I think it's huge to start noticing that kind of stuff and your internal monologue, and also, pull yourself out from that external validation a little bit, and kind of move towards the little decisions that you're making and the wins that you're having in the now, right?
Truth.
Cool. I mean, that's really all I got. I don't know if you want to add anything. Maybe we could wrap up and throw out some shout outs, words, whatever. What do you got?
No, I mean, guys, we're really just about trying to help you get through anything that you need, that we know that you're going to go through. Like, we've gone through a lot of different areas of starting business and education and and the information that we have and the experience that we've had. We just really want to use to help you guys out. Maybe this wasn't the most helpful for you, and comment and leave something you guys want us to talk about. If you guys want to hit us up, hit us with a comment. Let me know what you want us to talk about, because we can talk about anything. Like, there's absolutely no limit to what we can talk about, and our knowledge and our information and experience extends into a large spectrum of topics that cover the things that you're going to need to know or want to know to get the places you want to go in life, because it takes effort that has reactions, and we're going to teach you how to handle those. So I was just giving a little wrap up. You guys want us to talk about something, leave a comment of a subject you want us to cover. That's all I got, man.
No, absolutely. I want to jump on that real quick, because you mentioned talking about what they're thinking about it, right? Well, if you are leaving a comment and doing that, please do. But if you haven't thought about that, even if you haven't even thought about, maybe this is the first time that you've even really encountered that kind of stuff for yourself, well, maybe leave a comment about what it is that you actually want to get done. Like, what is your end game? Like, what kind of life do you want? Like, these are things that it's like we can't really talk about these in real life a lot of times, right? But you have stuff that you want to do. So just take these steps, right? See if they're useful to you. Listen to maybe some of the stuff that we said. If it's helpful, and you could choose to take some action, try and find some action you can take, right? And we'll be here next time, and hopefully, you're coming back. And if you're a repeat visitor, we appreciate it, because we're going to keep doing this because we want to help you succeed. I want to see you more successful than me, right? And I'm not even where I want to be, right? But where I want to be, I want to see you dwarf that, because why not? I mean, like, what's going to happen if we get a world full of people who are getting what they want, right? It could go anywhere. So I think that's huge. All right, guys, we're out of here. We'll see you later.